I never imagined I'd find love in a small town after fleeing a scandal. Could she heal my heart? I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The soft, comforting hum of my old life shattered, splintering into 1,000 sharp pieces. The headlines screamed my name, each word a dagger driven into my chest. Fallen from grace, they said. Scandal unraveled, they whispered. My heart raced, breath caught in my throat as I gripped the steering wheel. The road twisted like my thoughts, confused, chaotic. I needed to escape. A small town seemed the perfect disguise. Just a solitary dot on a map, hidden among tall pines and rolling hills. It promised anonymity. Still, the weight of my past clung to me, a suffocating shroud. As I drove, tears blurred my vision. Would I ever find peace again? Arriving in Cedar Creek, I was struck by the eerie stillness. The streets, lined with quaint houses, felt as if they were holding their breath. Almost too quiet. Birds chirped in the trees, yet a shadow followed me. I parked my car, the engine sighing, and stepped into a world so different from the chaos I'd left behind. A shopkeeper glanced up, eyes narrowing, almost scrutinizing me. The silence buzzed with unspoken judgments. A chill danced along my spine. This was not just about hiding, it felt as if the town itself was alive. Murmurs followed me. Whispers fluttered like moths around a flame. I felt their glances, a collective curiosity wrapped in suspicion. I could practically hear them wondering who I was, what I'd done. Would they ever let me forget? As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, I found myself in the corner cafe. The smell of fresh coffee wrapped around me like a warm blanket. I sank into a plush chair, the leather cool against my trembling hands. A woman appeared, auburn hair cascading like a waterfall down her shoulders, eyes sparkling under the low light. She approached with a cautious yet inviting expression. "Can I help you?" Her voice was soft but laced with strength, pulling me in, melting the ice that encased my heart. I blinked, caught off guard. Could someone here actually see me? Would she dare to look beyond the scandal, beyond the pain? I ordered a coffee, the warmth of the cup grounding me, reminding me I was still alive, still fighting. But as I stared into the dark liquid, the reality of my situation crashed over me. Every sip threatened to drown me in memories too raw to confront. What if this town couldn't accept me? What if she couldn't accept me? As the door swung open, a gust sent chills through me. A figure stepped in, cloaked in shadows. I couldn't see their face, but something about their presence felt ominous. I felt an electric charge in the air. The air thickened, suffocating me. My heart skipped a beat. Who was this person? Why did a feeling of dread wash over me? I needed answers and fast. But I also desperately wanted hope. Maybe she could be that hope. Could she be the one to help me heal my heart amid all this turmoil? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The warmth of the cafe faded as the shadowy figure stepped further inside, its silhouette stretching ominously before me. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like a frantic bird desperate to escape. I tried to focus on the woman across from me, but my attention was drawn back to the intruder, whose presence seemed to cast a blanket of unease over the serene space. The moment felt suspended in time. The coffee shop filled with the low hum of conversation, the clink of cups, and the hiss of the espresso machine, yet all of it dimmed against the urgency of my pulse. I held my breath, acutely aware of every eye observing the newcomer. The woman, noticing my distraction, glanced over her shoulder. "Don't worry, it's just Dean," she said softly, her tone betraying a hint of caution. "He comes in here sometimes a bit of a recluse." Just Dean. The name felt heavy, like a weight pulling down my chest. I forced myself to turn back to her, trying to steady my racing heart. "Just Dean?" I echoed, searching her eyes for reassurance. She chuckled lightly, a melody of laughter that contrasted starkly with the tension swirling around me. "Yeah, he's not well, let's just say he doesn't always behave like the rest of us." Curiosity danced in her eyes, sparking a warmth that encouraged me to ask more. "What's his story?" She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing the implications of sharing what she knew. "He's not from around here. Moved in about a year ago, but he keeps to himself mostly. People say he's had some struggles." She paused, the vivid light of her spirit dimming for just a second. "Maybe he's running from his own past, like you." Her words struck me like a lightning bolt, igniting something deep within. I felt a strange kinship with this elusive Dean. I wanted to ask more, but the flicker of movement from the corner of my eye caught my attention again. Dean was at the counter now, speaking animatedly to the barista, his body language indecipherable from where I sat. The woman leaned closer, her voice tinged with concern. "I hope you don't let his presence deter you." I forced a smile, trying to mirror her lightness. I'm here for a fresh start, after all." As the words landed between us, I felt the weight of their inauthenticity. Could I truly start anew surrounded by the specter of my past looming nearby? I stole another glance at Dean. He turned briefly, our eyes locking for a heartbeat. A jolt of electricity shot through me, and I instantly looked away, feeling the heat rise to my cheeks. "Are you staying in town long?" she asked, her interest genuine, pulling me back into the conversation that I sighed, the truth heavy on my tongue. I don't know. Maybe until I feel safe." "Safe?" she repeated, her brow furrowed, concern framing her features. "What are you running from?" For a moment, I considered spilling my heart out to her, about the life I had left behind, the haunting reminders of my choices painted across newspaper covers. Instead, I smiled, masking the tempest inside. "It's complicated. Just a personal issue." The woman nodded appreciatively, a look of understanding blossoming in her eyes. "Sometimes the best way to heal is to find connections, you know? You must remember that." Her kindness enveloped me, a glimmer of hope in the desolate landscape of my thoughts. Maybe this town had more to offer than just refuge. Perhaps it was a place to rebuild and foster new connections, to slowly dig my heart out of the deep trench I had buried it in, but in the depths of my mind, a tide of uncertainty surged. The reality of life still held fast, Octavia's presence a constant reminder that I might never fully escape the shadows of my past. Just as I was settling into this newfound hope, Dean abruptly turned toward the door, his eyes scanning the cafe like a hawk spotting its prey. I held my breath again as a familiar figure stepped in. It was my sister, worn and weary, every inch of her body revealing the burdens she bore. How did she find me? The air thickened, an uncomfortable tension wrapping around us like a vice. My heart dropped, panic coloring my vision black. I felt as if the walls were closing in, every glance thrown toward her like a judgment, an accusation. "Why are you here?" I shouted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Dean quietly stepped back, studying the scene with an almost clinical detachment while the woman's eyes widened in shock. My sister's gaze locked onto mine, pain blossoming in her expression, and I realized in that moment how far removed we had become. "I came to help," she replied, voice trembling, but fierce. The weight of this unexpected encounter settled. Hope felt like it had just become tainted, a bitter reminder that my past was not as far behind as I had hoped. My sister's words hung in the air like the last note of a song, vibrating with a mixture of nostalgia and resentment. "Help?" My voice dripped with incredulity as I took a step backward, instinctively retreating as the past clawed its way back into the present. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the cafe upon us, dulling the warm, inviting ambience. You said you needed space, she continued, a tremor of desperation spilling from her heart. I was trying to respect that, but when I heard I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. The woman across from me, whose name I still didn't know, shifted uneasily in her chair. Dean, meanwhile, faded further into the shadows, his presence a mere specter, as if he understood the rawness of this moment better than anyone. We're through, Maya. What help could you possibly give me? I snapped, the heat of anger lacing my words. My memories of laughter, family dinners, and shared secrets morphed into a tangled web of betrayal and guilt that threatened to ensnare me. Help you figure this out before it's too late. Her eyes sparkled with a fire that reminded me of who we once were. And then I saw it, the small, fragile thread of hope woven into her plea, which desperately sought to stitch our fractured relationship back together. Figuring out what, exactly? I shot back, my heart a fragile thing in my chest. The life you think I abandoned? Or the real one that continues to haunt me? She flinched but pressed on, her determination unwavering. I want to understand. You think I don't know what you've been through? You don't have to do this alone. You shouldn't have to run away from your family. Those words struck a painful chord, reverberating in the corners of my heart where self-doubt lingered. The truth settled heavily on my chest, everything I had tried to escape followed me like an unshakable shadow. The guilt I carried, me decisions, my mistakes tended to wrap around my mind like ivy, relentless in its grasp. You weren't there when I needed you most, I replied, my voice breaking along the edges. You just left me to deal with it. I was just trying to protect you. Her voice lowered, the emotions rising visibly. There was a softness behind her bravado, and for an instant, I was taken back to a time when we shared whispered secrets and promised each other that we would never abandon one another. As tension crackled between us, the barista chose that precise moment to bring over my coffee, offering a smile that crumbled under the weight of our confrontation. I grasped the cup, the heat radiating through my fingers, yet nothing could thaw the ice encasing my heart. A movement caught my eye. Dean was nearby, seeming not to care about the drama unraveling but observing nonetheless, his sharp blue gaze fixed on me. For reasons unknown, I felt a flutter of sympathy toward him. Perhaps he understood abandonment all too well. Just then, the cafe door swung open again, and a gust of cold air swept in, refreshing yet jarring. A familiar man stepped through, his face partially obscured by a woolen hat, and my breath caught in my throat. Kayla? He called out, the single name echoing through the cafe like a lonely bell. It was Tyler, me ex-boyfriend. What are you doing here? I choked out, the rush of emotions crashing over me like a tidal wave. His presence was a trigger, fastened tightly to my history, and I had no idea what he planned to say, only that it would undoubtedly ignite a storm in my already chaotic life that I came to apologize to explain. Tyler spoke, his voice evenly composed, yet the weight of uncertainty lay within his words. Recognition in my sister's eyes and the uninvited guests before me warped the thin thread of hope I had been grasping onto, transforming it into a noose tightening around my neck. Dean flickered like a ghost beside me, and I felt that same strange connection once more, but unlike the flicker of hope between me and my sister, this felt more profound, more raw. In an instant, I found myself drowning in memories and decisions, the past crashing against my every attempt to build a new foundation. My heart raced, caught in an emotional whirlwind. Was this truly a chance for healing or merely a replay of a familiar disaster? Kayla, please. Tyler stepped closer, but I instinctively steeled myself, unsure of what to do with this resurgence of my past. Each breath became a duella fight against my own vulnerability. Why now? I whispered, my voice trembling. You were gone when I needed you the most. His gaze softened, and I sensed an unexpected flicker of sincerity in his eyes. Because I've realized how much I lost and how terribly sorry I am. I glanced at my sister, then at the woman who offered silent support, before my eyes met Dean's again. Was it too late to protect my heart? I spun back to Tyler, my pulse racing, conflict raging in my veins, ready to spill out in a torrent of words or retreat into silence. The cafe, still echoing with the laughter and chatter surrounding our confrontation, felt like a stage for my heartbreak, with everyone as unwilling spectators. A lie danced on my tongue, ready to fabricate an excuse to shield me from the chaos, but just as I prepared to utter meaningless words, the door swung open again. An ominous figure stepped through, shrouded in dark clothing, and my heart lurched with a jolt of dread that he looked directly at me, a smirk playing across his lips, and my heart sank as the memories of what I had fled rushed to the surface: betrayal, fear, and an impending storm that now felt inevitable. My voice faltered, words lost in the cavern of uncertainty as I grasped for whatever semblance of strength I still held. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The figure in the doorway loomed like a specter, the air thick with tension as every eye in the cafe shifted toward him. Time seemed to stutter, a heartbeat caught between the past and the present. His presence stirred the air, reminding me that the past was not a mere memory but an encroaching shadow that refused to fade away. Well, if it isn't the prodigal daughter, he sneered, stepping further inside, confidence radiating off him like heat waves. I should have known you'd have no idea how to stay away from trouble. Panic rippled through me as recognition dawned. It was Nomi's biggest mistake and the catalyst of my leaving. The whispers of betrayal echoed like a cruel symphony in my mind, and I could feel my sister's hand tighten around her mug, her gaze shifting from me to the man who had caused so much chaos in our lives. "Get out," I managed to say, my voice stronger than I felt. The cafe had transformed into a twisted arena. The aroma of coffee and pastries was now cloying, suffocating under the weight of my dread. Noah chuckled softly, an infuriating sound that sent shards of discomfort through me. "Oh, Kayla, you think you can just cut ties and disappear? I wouldn't miss this reunion for anything." I could sense Dean's presence nearby, a sliver of comfort overshadowed by the tumult that unfolded. His unyielding silence contrasted sharply with Noah's vibrant disruption, and as I searched for an ally, I felt a flicker of fear for what lay ahead. "Don't you dare speak to her like that," Maya interjected, her voice rising, trying to create a barrier between me and my past. It was a small act of bravery, but it meant everything. The flicker ignited further, I could feel the embers of camaraderie glowing amidst the chaos. "Noah, leave her alone," Tyler added, his tone firm. Suddenly, the air was charged with discontent, and I stood at the epicenter, torn between the dimension of my past and the flickering boundaries of my present. "You're all so adorable," Noah replied, amusement dancing in his eyes as he glanced between the trio of protectors. "But it's cute that you think she's safe here. I know her better than anyone. She's just running from her mistakes. Aren't you, Kayla?" My heart raced. It was true, I felt trapped in an endless loop of regret, each turn taking me deeper into a labyrinth of self-doubt. This man represented everything I had fought to leave behind, and yet here he was, woven into the fabric of my reality again. "That I am not running, Noah," I shot back, my voice steadier than I had anticipated. "I'm trying to heal." He laughed, a hollow sound that echoed, and I braced myself against the table, feeling the wood dig into my palms. Fresh wounds tore open at his words, each insult stirring a volatile storm inside me, swirled into my memories of laughter that turned to screams beneath the weight of betrayal. "Right, healing," he mocked. "If only you could actually face yourself. You've always known how to run away and hide." Something inside me snapped. The heat of emotion boiled over, and before I could stop myself, I pointed a finger at him. "You think you can just waltz back in and bully me? You're nothing but a shadow I'm done giving power to." The silence hanging in the cafe was deafening, punctuated only by the soft clatter of cutlery on plates as patrons watched, captivated by the unfolding drama. Their expressions were a mix of concern and curiosity, like witnessing a train wreck, a tragic narrative that captivated, yet repelled. Noah's smirk faltered a fraction, but he quickly recovered, his demeanor shifting to that of a predator circling its prey. "Wow, look at you, so fierce and yet so fragile. You really think you can cut ties with the past?" "Yes. You don't control me anymore." I snapped back, the fire in my chest igniting hope amidst the fear. "I'm choosing to build a new life, and you don't belong in it." As I spoke these words, I glimpsed at Tyler, his expression shifting from one of concern to cautious admiration. And there, in the periphery, was Maya, her features softening as she took a small step closer, not to shield me, but to stand beside Meher, resolve a quiet defiance against our shared history. "Get out, Noah," Tyler said again, his voice low yet commanding. "You're the last person she needs right now. Don't make this harder than it already is." I had no idea how this moment would resolve, uncertainty curled in the pit of my stomach. But within the chaos of our emotions, the hope began to bloom, fragile yet resilient, a sign that maybe I was not entirely alone. Just as Noah opened his mouth to retort, the cafe door swung open again, causing a rush of cold air to sweep through the room. Shadows danced, blurring my view of whatever new presence had arrived. Collective gasps echoed through the onlookers, their focus shifting as a figure stepped into the light. My heart skipped a beat. Standing there was someone I had long believed was gone for good. They met my gaze, and within the depths of their eyes, I recognized a haunting familiarity, a connection that cut deeper than the chaos encircling me. "Kayla," they breathed, their voice a thread woven with tenderness and pain. "I've been looking for you." In that moment, the ground beneath me seemed to shift, everything I'd built teetering precariously on the edge of revelation. I clutched the table, the rush of emotions swirling around me like a storm. How could this be happening? Who had come to disrupt the fragile semblance of my life yet again? And suddenly, I wasn't sure if healing was even possible. The cafe's atmosphere shifted once more, transforming from an arena of emotional confrontation to a warped tableau of past life reverberations. The figure who had entered so unexpectedly was a specter of my uncertainty, Lucas, my childhood friend, whose absence had sculpted so much of my solitude. His presence filled the air with memories long buried, and the feelings I had thought I had locked away began to rise, threatening to overpower the precarious strength I had just found. "Lucas," I managed, the breath hitching in my throat, scattering the clarity I had seized moments ago. My heart drummed loudly, tears pricking at the corners of my eyes. While Noah stood there laced in smirk and condoning malice, Lucas radiated warmth that felt both familiar and foreign. Years had passed, yet a quiet electricity flickered between us, igniting echoes of laughter from sun-streaked afternoons. "What are you doing here?" My voice trembled, flavored by confusion and a hint of longing. I clutched the edges of the table tighter, steadying myself amidst the tumult that swirled with each heartbeat. That he stepped closer, and I noticed the glimmer of vulnerability in his eyes, a sunset against the darkness of regret. "I heard what happened in town. I needed to see you. Too, had to make sure you were okay." Noah scoffed, the rancor spilling from him almost instantly. "How sweet. You really think she needs you, Lucas? Doesn't she have enough on her plate with her past?" He turned to the cafe patrons as if seeking acceptance for his cruel twist of fate. "Shut up, Noah," Maya spat, her protective instinct bared like fangs. The fire in her eyes mirrored my own defiance, shared in unity against our common adversary. I shot her a grateful look, but my attention remained impelled towards Lucas. "Are you okay?" Lucas asked again, his voice cutting through the chaos that seemed to muffle every sound around us. For a fleeting moment, his tenderness dampened the downpour of feelings swirling within me, teasing me with the possibility of solace. "No, I'm not okay," I admitted, vulnerability clawing from the depths of my heart as the tension in my chest tightened. "Not while he's here." I gestured at Noah, needing to shed the weight of my words like an unwanted coat. Lucas frowned, swift and fierce. "I won't let him hurt you again, Kayla. I promise." His sincerity enveloped me, and in that moment, hope danced briefly before my eyes, asserting itself against the shadows that threatened to devour me. "Kayla's stronger than that," Tyler interjected, stepping closer to provide silent solidarity, bolstering my backbone as anxiety overtook me again. "You don't get to decide what she can or cannot handle." The music that flowed through the cafe shifted, a gentle melody ghosting in the background, almost as if it acknowledged our tangled emotions. Breathlessly, I soaked in the shift, the warmth radiating from Lucas, the unyielding support of my friends, and even the timid flicker of resolve igniting within me. Yet, as Noah surveyed the simmering room, the laughter and camaraderie taunting him, I sensed a deepening malice within him, a venom that still dripped into the crevices of our lives. Sweet little reunion, isn't it? He said, his tone sharp as broken glass. But you forget, Kayla, I know your darkest secrets. I've seen you at your worst, and it'll always be a part of your life, whether you like it or not. That I won't let you manipulate me any longer, I declared, each word slicing through the tension. The fire within me ignited further. Here I stood, flanked by allies, the past looming yet less potent than before. You're nothing but a ghost that I refuse to let haunt me. Lucas stepped closer, his expression softening, but there was something raw underneath a barely contained swell of emotion that mirrored my own. You're not alone in this, he murmured. I won't let you face your fears again without support. Just as the small glimmer of strength pulsed between us, Noah's laughter erupted, harsh and chilling. Support? That's rich coming from you. You have no idea what's really happened. What I know. You think she can escape. Who she is? A tense silence fell, a taut string ready to snap. The ambience crackled like charged air before a storm. Enough. Tyler boomed, stepping closer as he cast a darkened glance toward Noah. You're the one who should be afraid. Noah's eyes glimmered with an unfathomable darkness before he turned to face me once more, his smile twisty and predatory. You know what they say about secrets, Kayla? They have a way of unraveling at the worst possible moments. Just when you think you're safe. Stop, I breathed, shaking as a sudden wave of dread crashed over me. The question of what he knew loomed larger than any of us wanted to admit, a knife's edge poised precariously against my heart. But just as I held my breath, Lucas stepped closer, his voice soft yet stern. Whatever he's trying to imply, well, face it together. Don't let him win. For a heartbeat, I accepted his words like an anchor, even as fear gnawed at the edges. Through his gaze, I sought the answer to whether I could trust the moment, the emotions, and myself. And then it hit me like a thunderclap, a memory buried too deep, unearthed by his presence. What had truly happened that night we had all tried to forget. As Noah's mouth opened again, ready to unleash another wave of torment, the world stilled. In that breathless moment, I could feel the ground shifting beneath me and the invisible strings of fate pulling tighter. What he was about to reveal could splinter everything. I know what happened that night. Kayla, he said, his words dripping with honeyed malice, and if you don't want everyone to find out, you better listen to me. A cold chill swept through me, wrapping around my heart in vice-like grip. I had never imagined I'd be faced with the past once more, but now, unraveling what lay beneath the surface could mean losing everything or finding a way to rise above it all. As the cafe faded into the periphery, I stood on the precipice of revelation, anxiety and anticipation knotting together, holding my breath as the lingering shadows beckoned. The silence that enveloped the cafe was oppressive, as if the walls themselves held their breath in anticipation. Noah's gaze, dark and predatory, bore into me, feeding off my fear. Each tick of the clock echoed like a warning bell in my ears, amplifying the dread that sat heavy in my chest. I felt Lucas's presence beside me, solid and reassuring, yet even his quiet strength could not ward off the icy fingers of my past that were reaching out to entwine around me once more. Kayla, Noah continued, his voice smooth yet serrated, do you remember what you did to make me leave? The whispers, the betrayal, the truth that you buried? It's all still there, the scars of that night smeared across the backdrop of your perfectly painted story. You think you can just rewrite history because you had a moment of bravery? It doesn't work like that. A twinge of anger bubbled up within me, threatening to spill over. You're a coward, Noah. Hiding behind secrets and lies, trying to control me with fear. And yet, here I am. His sinister smile deepened, exposing his intent. What if I decided to share our little secrets with the lovely townsfolk? Wouldn't that make for an intriguing story? You'll be the star, the one they love to hate. Everyone loves a scandal, especially in a small town. Don't they, Lucas? I could feel Lucas shift beside me, his tension palpable. You wouldn't dare, he stated, but doubt lingered in the air thick as sorrow. I glanced at him, searching for reassurance in his eyes, but found only the same confusion brewing stormy skies. What are you protecting your delicate little pride? Or perhaps, you're worried they'll learn how you were complicit too. The guilt would consume you, Noah taunted, baiting us like a predator playing with its prey. Noah, stop, I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence but filled with a desperate plea. Enough of your games. I refuse to be your pawn any longer. A flicker of something like respect flashed in Lucas' eyes as he pierced the tension with his next words. You don't have to worry about him. We'll get through this together, Kayla. I promise. There it was again, that assurance lighting sparkles of hope in the wreckage of my heart, but hope was fragile, and right now, it felt all too fleeting. I remembered the butterflies that had fluttered in my stomach as a child, playing games in sunlit fields with Lucas. The laughter was still fresh, an echo that seemed faintly within reach, but the shadows encroached again. Together? Noah's scoff was laced with contempt. How quaint. Just remember, Kayla, the past is like the tide always comes back in. My heart raced, dredging up vivid fragments of that night, every moment painted with fear, regret, and loss. As if reading my mind, Noah's voice morphed into a harsh whisper. You think they won't look at you differently once it comes to light? You think you won't be judged? They'll shun you as the pariah you really are. The walls seemed to close in, and I took a shaky breath, trying to shake off the doubts that clung to me like damp clothes. But a new voice broke into the arena, ghost of past friendships and shared dreams. The music hummed with a slow, comforting rhythm that reminded me of the warmth of summer nights, long after the sun dipped below the horizon. Maya, I breathed, glancing toward my friend, who stood firmly against Noah's heat. The way she squared her shoulders, fierce and unwavering in the face of looming darkness, gave me a thread to cling to. You don't get to destroy her, Noah. You don't get to drag her back into that hell you fashioned, Maya declared, her voice a shield forged in fire. Whatever you think you know, it doesn't define her. She is so much stronger than you'll ever understand. Stronger? Please. Noah advanced, his posture sleek like a predator on the prowl. Give me one good reason to believe she has a chance at escaping who she really is. A lost little girl with too many secrets, shall only ever push everyone away. I'll prove you wrong, I said, the conviction rising against the tide of his accusations. I'll show everyone I'm more than you. Say. I refuse to let my past dictate my future any longer. The moment hung suspended in the air, filled with fiery defiance. It was a fragile promise, but now I had found allies, whether my heart dared to recognize it fully or not. The air in the cafe hummed with newfound fervor, the tension melting into resolve, but just as I began to grasp that resolve, that flickering heart of strength, the door swung open, releasing a sudden gust of cold evening air. A newcomer entered, a figure cloaked in shadows with urgency etched upon their face. The murmurs echoed through the coffee, a collective gasp as the stranger locked their eyes on me. I felt the world stop as they approached, a silence enveloping the crowd. Kayla? The voice trembled, a mixture of recognition and fear dancing in the air. I turned to look at whoever had entered, my heart racing as I searched for familiarity, but their identity morphed into a beckoning enigma, not entirely unwelcome yet shrouded in uncertainty. With every step they took toward me, the inevitability of another layer of my past crept closer, fortified by uncertainty. Why are you here? I whispered as time seemed to warp, reality morphing toward an unresolved conflict I had never anticipated. The unrelenting truth was now knocking at my door. I had never imagined that the past would rush forward, spilling secrets I had thought laid to rest. Perhaps the cafe wasn't merely an arena for confrontation, it swirled within its walls the chaos of healing, the heartbreak of failure, and threads of hope woven into the fabric of our stories that were still unfolding. I held my breath against the unknown, bracing for the impact of whatever revelation awaited us all. The weight of the silence shifted into something more palpable, as if the very air had thickened with the unspoken truths that swirled among us. The stranger, their eyes reflecting a storm of emotions, stood before me, an unfamiliar beacon of my past I had never expected to see again. Kayla, they repeated, their voice strained, laced with urgency. You need to listen to me. I took a cautious step back, searching for recognition in their features. The memories flickered like old film with flashes of laughter, secrets shared, and a warmth that felt like home. But the shadows whispered warnings too, telling me of nights drenched in sorrow and betrayal, the stories I had fought so hard to escape. Who are you? I managed, my voice steadier than I felt as the crowd held its breath, all eyes glued to this unexpected visitor. It's me, Sophie. The name struck like a bell, awakening echoes of friendship and shared dreams that danced just out of reach. Memories of our childhood flooded back, playgrounds, scraped knees, and the fort we built from blankets. I had thought Sophie vanished into obscurity after our worlds shattered, but here she stood, bearing the weight of my history like a badge, one I had divorced myself from. No, it can't be. What are you doing here? My heart raced, torn between the familiar warmth of long-lost friendship and the chilling shadow of what her presence symbolized. Noah's eyes glinted with mischief, a wolf who caught sight of an easy meal. Look at that, Kayla. Your past has quite the knack for reappearing, doesn't it? What a lovely reunion. Sophie steadied herself like she was preparing to share a secret that weighed heavily on her shoulders. I had to find you. I couldn't stay away any longer. They need to know the truth. Who needs to know what truth? I pressed, a mixture of fear and anger igniting. The room felt as if it might crack under the strain of our unraveling narratives. What could Sophie possibly reveal that could worsen this already unbearable situation? The police, she said suddenly, the name ringing with unexpected finality. It's about that night. What happened with the accident? The truth is no. I shouted, the floodgates of my past suddenly gushing into the present, drowning me in a cascade of unprocessed emotions. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have come back. My protest carried a weight of years spent urging myself to forget, to heal in solitude, and to distance myself from a life once filled with light but now echoing with darkness. Lucas shifted, stepping protectively closer to me as if sensing the storm brewing. Sophie, if this has something to do with what occurred, you might want to think carefully before you proceed. No, I have to. You don't understand. Her desperation cut through the air. What you think you know is only part of it. They have evidence that can change everything. Noah's grin widened, his cruel delight as sharp as the steel in his eyes. Ah, evidence? Can't wait to hear more, he said tauntingly. Is it the kind that will finally give Kayla the reputation she deserves? Perhaps a little bit of scandal to spice up her wowful life? Enough. Maya snapped, her fierce loyalty igniting like a match in a dry room. Stop it, Noah. This is not your game to play anymore. And yet, his attention remained fixated on Sophie with a predatory curiosity. Well, let's hear it then. What is this evidence, Sophie? Did you haul those years of guilt and regret from the depths of your own messy history to finally dish it out? Sophie trembled slightly under his gaze but held her ground. There was more to the accident than anyone knows. You were only a part of it, Kayla. If the truth comes out, it could change everything for you. And for him. Her voice wavered slightly as she glanced at Lucas, perhaps alluding to the burden he bore as my steadfast anchor in this storm. The revelation cracked like thunder, sparking lightning in darkened skies. I felt Lucas' hand on my shoulder as he leaned closer, his presence like a shield against the chaos swirling around us. What do you mean? He asked softly, concern etched on his features, but before she could respond, a cacophony erupted from within the cafe, a disconcerting clamor as patrons began to murmur amongst themselves, their eyes flickering between Noah, Sophie, and me. Anxiety thrummed through the air, an unrelenting current that rushed beneath our skin. The walls seemed to pulse, shrinking in on us, suffocating under the weight of unresolved secrets. This part of the big reveal where you expose your friend to the town? Noah sneered, relishing in the aura of chaos that danced around us. Because if it is, let's make it entertaining for the audience, shall we? And at that moment, a shadow flitted at the edge of my peripheral vision. I turned in time to see a figure slip through the door, another person shrouded in uncertainty but already draped in mystery. The tension escalated, thick and unbearable. A wave of recognition washed over me as our eyes locked. This stranger wore a familiarity I couldn't quite place but felt instinctively in the depths of my heart. What now? Maya muttered under her breath, her hands clenched into fists. The threat of intermingling pasts overwhelmed us like the crashing waves against the shore as everyone around seemed to hold their breath in anticipation. The weight of unyielding choices, connected lives, and the gnawing fear of exposure intermingled within me as I braced for whatever lay ahead. The unexpected arrival spoke of pasts wrestling against the tide of the present, leaving me vulnerable to currents I had long fought to swim beyond. The atmosphere exploded with unfiltered possibilities, anticipation priming the air for revelations sure to unravel the threads of my carefully constructed life. And all the while, I sensed the pieces shifting, converging toward a revelation that neared. My heart raced. A new fragment of my story was being revealed, filling the gaps of solitude I had kept for far too long, and I knew there was no turning back. Whatever storm was brewing would soon break, and as the figures came together in the dim glow of the café, I felt a dreadful certainty: the truth was coming. The stranger moved forward, hesitating briefly before crossing the threshold that separated the past from the present, a mere few steps but loaded with unspoken tensions. As the trying silence enveloped me, I studied their face. Recognition flickered and faded like a distant mirage. Who were they to me? The fog of my memories clouded my judgment as much as the whispers of the crowd filled the café with an air of anticipation. "Kayla?" they said, their voice unsteady but familiar enough to dredge up waves of emotion. Flashes of laughter, late-night confessions, and reckless summer days came crashing into view, but those memories were stained with the bittersweet knowledge that time had reshaped our lives in unexpected ways. That I took a hesitant step toward them, feigning confidence, though every nerve tingled with unease. "Do I know you?" The question rolled off my tongue like a plea, a desperate attempt to grasp any shred of familiarity amid the chaos. "It's Emma Turner," the stranger replied, their brow furrowing as they searched my eyes for recognition. "We were best friends once, remember?" Before everything, the mention of my childhood best friend ignited an inexplicable warmth, but bitter remnants of our history clung to my heart. Emma and I had been inseparable until life pulled us apart, shadows darkening our once bright bond. "Emma? But how?" I stammered, wrestling with the confusion that encircled my thoughts. "After what happened, I moved away. Tried to move on, but I couldn't leave it behind," she confessed, gripping her hands together, each word heavy with the weight of guilt and nostalgia. "I came back because of Sophie, to help to see if there was still a chance for us to confront the truth." Sophie's eyes shone with unshed tears as she met mine, the collective burden on her shoulders suddenly feeling like a shared weight. "You two deserve to know. No more hiding," she insisted, her voice firm yet saturated with vulnerability. My heart pounded in protest, the implications of their return swirling like leaves caught in a ferocious wind. Could I bear even more revelations of my past? The very thought stirred a mixture of dread and curiosity within me. What truths unfolded in the white lies we had built over the years? Lucas' steady presence anchored me as he tightened his grip on my shoulder, though I could sense the tension in his body, too, understood the gravity of this moment. "Whatever happened, we'll face it together," he murmured, his unwavering support like a lighthouse amid a tempest. Noah's laughter, sharp and mocking, broke the fragile layer of hope that formed between us. "Oh, how sweet. A little team therapy session while the world's drama unfolds. You know, Kayla, I've always said nothing's ever really finished until the last act. And look." He gestured theatrically, "The cast keeps growing." Just as anger began bubbling in my chest, a woman's voice rushed in like a breath of fresh air, cutting through the crowd's mounting discomfort. "Enough." She was a newcomer, striding forward with fierce determination, her presence commanding immediate attention. "You can't dictate how this plays out, Noah, and you shouldn't have a say in anyone's past." Her face was a blend of concern and determination, and I felt a spark of recognition, an ally emerging in my chaotic world. "I'm Rebecca. I'm an attorney friends with Sophie. If you all are prepared to confront the past, I suggest we do it properly. No games, just the truth." A collective gasp rippled through the cafe, morphing into a tense silence that swallowed us whole, each individual processing the unexpected offer of clarity. My heart fluttered with conflicting emotions: fear of exposure, hope for resolution, and uncertainty about the path that lay ahead. "Rebecca?" Sophie gasped, luminosity igniting her features. "You came." "I didn't think I'd never leave a friend stranded in a storm," Rebecca interjected, her eyes roving over the crowd gathering around us. "But you all need to understand that the truth can change everything, and if we're doing this, we need to commit." A quiet murmur spread as the cafe patrons weighed Rebecca's words, the weight of their gaze pressing down on me. I felt myself teetering along the precipice of choice: push forward into this turbulent sea of revelations or retreat back into the comfort of my carefully constructed walls. But then Emma stepped closer, her expression earnest and pleading. "Kayla, whatever happened, whatever weight you're carrying, you don't have to face it alone. I came back to help. Let's do this together, please." That I took a deep breath, my heart pounding louder than ever. "What if the truth destroys us?" I asked, searching their faces for some glimmer of assurance. "The truth also frees us," Lucas replied, his voice low but powerful, the unshakable strength behind his words reminding me that darkness was only one part of the journey toward healing. A new flicker of hope ignited, urging me to confront the impending storm. It was time to tear down those walls, to venture into the unknown where the heartache of the past met the promise of tomorrow. Then, like the first crack of a thunderstorm, I felt a sudden rush of energy, a revelation hovering just within reach. Was the truth the key to my healing, or merely a catalyst for further turmoil? I faced Sophie, Emma, and Rebecca, standing on the threshold of transformation, before glancing toward Noah, wondering if he would unleash even more chaos. And then, in that electric moment, it hit me: truth might already be within my grasp, a secret lurking in the shadows for far too long, poised to erupt in the light. The gravity of the situation swelled, the weight of my own heartbeat crescendoing in my ears as I prepared to confront not just them but the ghosts of my past. As I opened my mouth to speak, to unveil what lay hidden, a ringing phone shattered the fragile calm. With horror, I realized it was my own unexpected caller, a name I hadn't seen in years flashing across the screen. Just as I reached for it, the cafe door swung open with an anguished cry, pulling our attention, unveiling a face that would turn everything upside down once again. The truth had never been far away, it had only been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself in a small town where the weight of scandal intertwined with a chance at love. The moment the cafe door swung open, chaos rushed in, mirroring the tempest brewing inside me. There, framed in the doorway, stood a figure I hadn't seen in years. Mark. He looked older and more worn than I remembered, shadows under his eyes that told stories of unspoken pain and silent regrets. A tremor rippled through me, conflicting memories flooding my mind: the laughter we shared, the love we lost, and the scandal that shattered everything. His eyes locked onto mine, wide with an emotion I couldn't quite decipher. I had hoped I would never encounter him again, yet here he was, shattering my hopes of a smooth re-entry into familiar territory. The air around us felt electric, charged with unvoiced thoughts that echoed through the cafe like a haunting melody. "Kayla," he breathed, the name a soft echo of our past and yet heavy with the grief of what could have been. There was disbelief in his voice, and it wound around the words like tendrils of smoke drifting from an extinguished fire. Time felt suspended as I stared back at him, caught between wanting to run and yearning to seek solace in his presence, now familiar yet terrifying. In that moment, I thought of the truth. Could it be that Mark was entwined with the secrets we had buried all those years ago? Fear gripped me as I considered the visceral turmoil that thrummed under the surface. "Mark?" Emma's voice broke the tension, confusion flickering across her face. "What are you doing here?" A part of me yearned for clarity, for explanations that could untangle the web of emotions now spiraling in the cafe. Yet the other part, the one encased in layers of guarded resolve, shouted in warning. "Mark, it's been a while," I finally managed, words tumbling out with an effort bordering on desperation. "What do you want?" He hesitated, the weight of his presence drawing attention as the crowd shifted. I could feel the murmuring growing around us, the collective curiosity reflected in the eyes of patrons hungry for a tale as intricate as ours. A single drop of perspiration slid down my back as I fought against the vulnerability creeping in. "I came back for you, Kayla," he said, his voice steadying despite the chaos swirling around us. "I heard what happened with the cafe, with Sophie, and everything. I had to see if you were okay." My heart trembled, caught between anger and longing. Didn't he understand the pain he had caused, the way it had marred our memories? "You hurt me. You didn't come back before when I needed you most." "I know," he replied, his eyes downcast, shame woven into his expression. "And I carry that guilt with me every day. I thought it best until now. I know this is messy, but I want to help. I want to make amends." "What do you mean?" Emma interjected, her voice rising with apprehension. "What do you know about this?" Mark's gaze shifted between Emma and me, as if he needed to consider every word carefully. "I know about the night everything fell apart," he said, each syllable laden with consequences. "I found something that changes everything." Sophie gasped, the air around us thickening with anticipation. Time folded in on itself as I hung on his every word, a sense of urgency enveloping me. "What did you find?" I demanded, my heart pounding like a drum signaling an incoming storm. But before he could respond, the phone in my pocket buzzed insistently, the caller still flashing on the screen like a warning sign I couldn't ignore. As confusion rooted deeper, I frantically fumbled for my phone, anxious about the disruption Mark's arrival had caused to my already shaky resolve. "Kayla?" Sophie urged, her voice small amid the rising tension. With trembling fingers, I answered, unsure if I was ready to unearth another piece of the puzzle. "Hello?" A voice I hadn't heard in years dripped with mock sweetness, pulling me once more into the dark edges of my past. "Surprised to hear me, aren't you? You didn't think I'd let you unravel everything without having my say, did you?" The room dimmed, my gaze snapping back to Mark. The shock in his eyes matched my own, and the implications of that voice sent a chill down my spine. Somehow, the truth I had been teetering on the edge of had just become infinitely more complex. "Who is it?" Emma asked, panic brewing behind her words. My heart raced as I responded to the voice on the line, dashing forward into the unknown even as I felt the ground slipping away beneath me. "What do you want?" "Let's just say," the voice purred, dripping with cold malice, "that your little reunion is about to get very interesting." The line disconnected, leaving behind an echo of threats and half-formed fears. Staring wide-eyed at Mark, the weight of everything slammed down. The truth had remained obscured for far too long, and now it threatened to consume all of us. In that moment, I realized this tangled web of love, loss, and secrets was more than I had prepared for. Just as the storm of emotions surged within, lurking shadows were revealing themselves to challenge our fragile hopes. And as I glanced around the cafe, eyes darting between Emma, Noah, Sophie, and now, Mark, I knew one thing: the roller coaster ride through our past had just begun, and we were all strapped in for the thrilling, tumultuous journey ahead. The atmosphere felt charged, electric in a way that filled the cafe with an anticipatory hush. I could practically hear the heartbeat of the place echoing through every wall, every soul suspended in collective disbelief. Mark stood there, a living embodiment of choices made and paths forsaken, his silent pleas wrapping around me with faint hopes of reconciliation. Yet, as I looked closer, I saw not just the man I once loved, but the remnants of a life I had fought so hard to leave behind. "Kayla," he began again, his voice trembling slightly as if the weight of our shared history threatened to crack his facade. "I know I messed up. I'm not expecting you to forgive me right away, but I'm here now. I want to explain. I interrupted, incredulity lacing my tone, every word a jagged stone. "You think you can just waltz back into my life after all this time and explain away the pain you caused? You left me when I needed you most." My heart felt raw, the memories bubbling to the surface as anger and vulnerability warred inside me. "I know," he whispered, anguish evident in his voice. I was scared. I didn't understand the depth of what I was running from. But I came back because I realized I lost more than I could ever imagine. I shouldn't have abandoned you. Not then, not ever. Tears pricked at my eyes as memories of late-night whispers and dreams shared rushed back, but the weight of betrayal anchored me down, splintering the pleasure of nostalgia into hurt. You don't get to re-enter my life and act like nothing happened. You hurt me, Mark. You hurt everyone. My voice wavered, fueled by decades of hidden sorrows that were clawing their way back to the surface. Across the cafe, I could see Maya clench her fist, her protective instinct alive and roaring within her. Emma stood rigid beside me, a picture of concern. Lucas' gaze flickered between us, uncertainty mingling with the strength he exuded, his presence a comforting balm against the encroaching chaos. Please, everyone deserves the truth, Mark said, desperation tinged with sincerity that slowly softened the electric air surrounding us all. Especially you, Kayla. You deserve to know what really happened. About the accident the night it all went wrong. The word struck like a hammer, splitting the air. Accident. My stomach twisted in knots as memories of regret and fear flooded back, drowning my resolve. I felt the color drain from my face, knowing that the waves of unwanted truths were poised to engulf me. What do you know? I rasped through a trembling throat, the flickering hope of revelation overshadowed by unrelenting fear. Sophie stepped closer to me, her voice barely above a whisper. Kayla, maybe whatever he has to say can finally bring closure. No, I choked out, backing up slightly as the dark cloud of history loomed ever larger. I can't. Mark extended his hands, open and earnest, the shadows clinging stubbornly to his form. I found the missing piece, he said, capturing my gaze, intent and assured. It wasn't just an accident, it involved Noah, too. He was there. He knows more than he's admitting, and those secrets aren't just yours, they ripple into the lives of everyone who cared. It left scars we can't ignore. Noah scoffed, his laugh grating like nails on a chalkboard. You think you can sway anyone's opinion by weaving a tale? Please, the past doesn't create heroes, it breeds enemies. The tension snapped. I stepped forward, trembling with a surge of anger. You're the enemy, Noah. You always have been. Our lives were forever altered because of your lies and habits. How dare you act like any part of this is my fault? With a sudden ferocity, Mark turned to Noah, their eyes clashing, a confrontation that sparked tension like flint to steel. You've been controlling everyone's narratives for far too long, Noah. You have no power over us, and it's time we reclaim the story. What was told and what was hidden. It's time for the truth to surface. Echoes of gasps swept through the cafe as patrons exchanged glances, the unraveling of our tangled past morphing into something tangible, electrifying, and most terrifyingly, liberating. That I felt the spark of that liberation building in the openness of the air, buoying me up against my will. It forged a path, one I had feared, one that promised the possibility of closure. The road ahead glimmered, shrouded in shadows yet threaded with glimmers of light, hope, and the courage of the people that surrounded me. Kayla, Emma interjected softly, her voice like a breath of clarity amidst the storm. You don't have to choose alone. We're all here. We can confront this together. The profound weight of her words resonated deep within me, weaving strength into the corners of my heart. At that moment, I realized how far I had come. I had fled to escape but instead found friends who bolstered my spirit, reminding me that healing wasn't a solitary journey. And maybe, just maybe, it was time to face this as a unified front. Okay, I said, heart racing, feeling the floodgates of possibility open before me. Let's lay it all bare. Let's confront whatever happened that night. I turned back toward Mark, ready to extract the truth, only to be met with a fleeting smile that shimmered with hidden knowledge and untamed regret. I promise, Kayla. Whatever comes next, you won't face it alone. Noah's facade cracked, pieces shattering with the sudden turn of the tables. The room pulsed, a living organism alive with whispers of revelation. There was strength in this meeting of old and new, this gathering of allies against a common threat, and with renewed determination, I embraced it. As I faced the shadows of my past, I felt the weight of chains breaking. The truth was ugly and beautiful and messy all at once, yet I divined its power, the kind that could set me free. "Let's untangle this," I breathed, eyes steady on the road ahead, fear still flickering but softened with the light of shared hope. The darkness that had once threatened to consume me seemed, at last, to recede, as I stepped into the warmth of the gathering light and opened my heart to whatever would come next. And even amidst the chaos of unearthing hidden realities, I took a silent vow to reclaim my narrative, to let the whispers of heartache give way to the roars of resilience. For the first time in years, I believed it. I was more than my past. I was on a path to redefine my future, and that future shimmered with infinite possibilities, and as I looked at the faces surrounding me, I knew we would face whatever lay ahead together, we could weather any storm. Because my heart, finally whole, echoed one simple truth: we were rewriting our stories, a line at a time, and this time, we would write our own happy endings.